NieR Replicant is better than NieR Automata. I could have chose to tell the story of Automata in this video for the 15th anniversary, but Replicant just has a better story. Granted, the combat in Automata is some top tier shit. Nonetheless, you know why we're here, so let's get into it. Our story takes place in the aftermath of Drakengard ending E. A disease called the white chlorination syndrome has spread through the entire world, and the human race is on the decline. A young NieR is taking refuge in the market of some sort for a moment's rest. Before long, he is interrupted by the sound of beasts as he is made to fight. We then learn that he is traveling with his ill younger sister. Her coughs attract more monsters as NieR is made to fight again, only to be overwhelmed and overpowered. It's not until the aid of a grimoire that he has the chance to fight back. Now wielding powerful magics, NieR is able to perform numerous spells, eventually vanquishing his foes before returning to his loved one. She offers us half of a cookie before her health turns for the worse. Black runic symbols appear before her body before NieR asks why, before revealing that she attempted to commune with the grimoire. Yona faints as we zoom out to see more of what the world has become due to the white chlorination syndrome, before we are taken 1,412 years into the future. Here you may ask, how is that even possible? But we'll answer that by the end of the story. 1,412 years into the future, and NieR looks like he hasn't aged a day. He's living in a remote village with his younger sister Yona, who seems to be faring a lot better now than how she was portrayed at the beginning of the story, or so we think. NieR heads off to the library and we're introduced to the village chief Popola. It's revealed that Yona is actually still sick after all this time, albeit a cough. NieR receives a job gathering mutton and brings herbs into the northern plains, and it's these jobs that are keeping him and Yona afloat in the village. On the way out, we run into Yona even though she is told to stay in bed and rest. She tells NieR that she was looking for a book on a way to cure her illness, and after telling her some reassuring words, NieR instructs her to go home. As we head out, NieR explains that the world is dying. Populations continue to dwindle, while plague and disease run rampant. If that wasn't enough, monsters called Shades roam the lands, threatening human lives. He then notes that it's not easy for him and Yona to be on their own, but he can't falter. When NieR returns from completing the job, we also run into Devola, twin sister of Popola and a musician of sorts. He stops by the house after checking with Popola to check on Yona, and when she asks him to tell a story, one that she hasn't read or heard, it's then that the story of the lunar tear is told. The flower is said to essentially be priceless, and if sold could bring 1,000 riches. Not long are we tasked with saving an injured worker, but he cannot move due to the amount of shade surrounding him, so we are sent to subjugate the beast and return the man to the village. After returning to the village, we are notified by Popola that Yona has stopped by the library asking about the lunar tear, and that NieR should head home as Yona is worried. Once NieR is home, he instantly realizes that Yona has gone missing. Trailing back to Popola, it is revealed that she had told Yona that the lunar tears grow in the lost shrine, believing it all to be just a little joke, but unbeknownst to her, Yona was very serious in that she actually ran off to the lost shrine to look for the lunar tear. With the many dangers out in the world and no time to waste, we make haste for the lost shrine through the eastern gate. On the way out, NieR finds Yona's ribbon, confirming his suspicions. As we approach the lost shrine, a long wooden bridge stands before us, but we have a goal in mind as NieR rushes off headfirst into the shrine. Sunlight from the broken glass ceiling falls onto a large tree in the center in this open level. Rooms and puzzles await young NieR as he traverses 4 to 5 floors, each crawling with shades as he soars for the top level of the structure, eventually coming across a double door as he takes a moment before heading inside. NieR finds Yona in this room, and she is passed out behind a sort of barrier that has a strange book contained. Before long, we are ambushed by Shades, struggling to break the grimoire before it eventually cracks, breaking, and in turn, freeing the mysterious book. As NieR is still ambushed, it turns out that the mysterious book can talk and has sentience. The book introduces itself as Grimoire Weiss, and grants us the ability to use magic through words via blood absorption, and that blood is sound. Sound are words, and words are power. After taking out our adversaries, we are faced with 2 guardians of a lost shrine that proved to be a challenge for the young NieR, but not impossible. As the two are defeated, NieR rescues Yona. Grimoire Weiss joins us, and the shrine collapses. After we make it to safety, Yona apologizes, saying that she was only trying to help, but it's all water under the bridge. This happy reunion is interrupted though, as black runic symbols appear on Yona's arm, signaling that she still has the affliction after all this time. Weiss then explains that this disease is called the Black Scrawl, and it is fatal. After some lamenting, NieR runs off to Devola, who tells us that she knows Weiss and is portrayed in her song as a white book who saves us from the evil of the black book. It's really vague, so we are sent to see if Popola knows anything else, and we get the full picture from her. She tells us that a black book named Grimoire Noir will come and bring death and destruction, but it is the power in the white book Grimoire Weiss and his sealed verses that overcome this foe and save us all. NieR comes to the conclusion that he must collect these sealed verses with Grimoire Weiss if he wants a chance at saving Yona. Knowing that the shades he kills and the sealed verses are connected give NieR even more motivation to seek them out. Popola and Weiss try to talk NieR out of it, deeming it dangerous and reckless, but NieR doesn't budge. Knowing this, Popola gives in and lets NieR know that shades are gathering towards a village called the Eyrie, so that is where we must head. On the way, as we approach the village, we run into an abandoned tavern that looks like someone used to live there. Leaving it behind, NieR heads into the Eyrie, a floating village supported by connecting bridges and wires implanted into the mountainous terrain. As we head for the chief's house, we are attacked by shades. After killing said shades, we ask around for information regarding the sealed verses, only to be hit by hatred and dismay by the village folk, telling us that we remind them of a person named Kaine. Once we reach the village chief's house, he doesn't even want to speak to us as he brushes us off. Figuring it to be a waste of time, we start heading for the entrance to the village. On our way out, we see the legendary lunar tears in the abandoned tavern we saw earlier. Reaching closer, we're interrupted by a lady in lingerie who's pissed that we mess with her belongings. NieR notices runic symbols on the lady's arm, thinking that she is a shade, and a fight breaks loose, only to be interrupted by a much larger shade. With bigger things to worry about, the two defeat the large shade temporarily as the lady passes out. Weiss tells us that she is something between human and shade before NieR realizes that he was in the wrong. After the lady wakes, she tells us that her name is Kaine and to stay away from the beast as it is her prey. After returning to the village and checking up on Yona, we see she is in pain. We ask Popola if she has any pain medicine when she says that what they should try is shaman fish, as its liver can dull even the strongest pain, and that the fish can be found in the seafront, a seaside town past the south gate. After arriving to the seafront, we go fishing to collect the shaman fish and run into an old lady wanting to know about a letter she was meant to receive. After helping the old lady, we return with the fish to the village and have it prepped for Yona. After her slight recovery, she is introduced to Weiss, and he with NieR head to the library to see Popola, who tells NieR about a horde of shades near the Eyrie, and that if we want to make our weapons stronger, to head to a shop in a location called the Junk Heap. We arrive to the said shop, and it's ran by two brothers named Jacob and Gideon, who wait on their mother's return after it's been a week, thinking she had gone deeper into the Junk Heap. We inquire about upgrading our weapons, and Jacob tells us that he needs materials located inside the heap. Seeming like a win for both sides, NieR ventures into the heap. As we explore, it becomes more clear that the mother is probably dead, noted by Weiss, but NieR refuses to admit. We eventually come across a large malfunctioning machine that is keen set on killing us. We destroy the machine while acquiring another sealed verse in the process, and in the room after, we find the body of the mother alongside a man, and it is revealed that the mother had tried to abandon the kids and run off with the soldier man, but they were both killed by machines. Breaking the news to the children, Gideon doesn't take it well while Jacob keeps his chin up, noting that their mother was conflicted for a long time and that this was for the best. NieR returns to the Eyrie to find it overrun with shades, including the giant shade from earlier. We go after the shade, with Kaine joining us in the fight. As the fight continues, the creature tries to flee, with NieR and Kaine chasing it eventually to the apex of the village where the final bout starts. NieR and Kaine emerge victorious as through the help of Weiss and his arcane magic, we pierce the beast and obtain another sealed verse. Kaine passes out again, and Weiss says that we should just let her die, but NieR says that every life has meaning. Kaine wakes up saying that her purpose for living is over, now that her vendetta against the giant shade is over. Weiss and NieR convince KEIICHI that there is more to life and that they are friends now, before KEIICHI eventually joins them on their journey for the sealed verses. As we leave, KEIICHI mentions that a certain king had the Black Scroll and that the kingdom had been looking for a cure, that being the only lead they have for now. The crew makes for the kingdom of Assad. To make this journey, we travel through the scorch of the desert before making our way to a large door guarded by two men. When one of them recognizes KEIICHI for saving one of their people, we are granted entrance to the kingdom of Assad, a labyrinth-style kingdom made of stone and sand where most of the inhabitants don't speak a language known to the world, as it is made known by Weiss. It's a language that he doesn't even know. To our fortune, we run into someone named Fira who communicates through sign language, something that Weiss can decipher. We make our intent known that we want to see the king, but before anyone can see the king, they must take a guided tour of the kingdom, and that's exactly what we do. After the tour, we actually aren't allowed in the king's mansion per the guards, so we head back to the entrance where it's revealed that the prince has actually gone missing inside a barren temple. With news on hand, NieR, KEIICHI, and Weiss, accompanied by Fira as our guide, make for the barren temple. We are introduced to many trials in order to proceed deeper into the temple, and on our way, we actually find the prince, but he is taken away by an ancient adversaries. KEIICHI herself is taken away the same way shortly after, so it is up to NieR to find and free the two. After clearing the final trial, we are met with the guardian of the temple, who NieR slays. With the guardian dead alongside the prince and KEIICHI being safe, we return to the kingdom where the prince is hailed as king, and NieR and the crew establish a close friendship with the kingdom. We also acquire another sealed verse at this location. We return to check on Yona, who is seeming to be faring better after the shaman fish we gave her, and NieR decides to sleep in. It is then that he has a dream, or more of a vision, where an unknown entity bestows knowledge of the location of a sealed verse, writing it off as a delusion. NieR talks to Yona and finds out that she had the same dream and same knowledge bestowed. Knowing that this cannot be a coincidence, NieR and Weiss check on Popola to see if she has any news regarding the sealed verses. Once we meet with Popola, she shares that she had received a strange letter from the chief of the Forest of Myth, the same location that was told to NieR that would contain the sealed verse. It was obvious to NieR what needed to be done. We enter the village. It seems to be vacant until NieR runs into the mayor and notice him acting strange, citing the words, "those who dream." The next moment, a strange feeling overcomes the two, as now they can talk to the mayor, who tells them there is a curse on the village dubbed the Death Dream that traps the townfolk into their own dreams for eternity, and that NieR and Weiss have too become entrapped in the mayor's dream, which is why they are able to speak with him all of a sudden. The three conclude that since it is a dream, there must be an exit that can be dreamed of to somewhere. NieR and Weiss travel the forest until the forest itself starts to communicate with the two through sound, in the form of riddles that the two must answer if they want to escape the death dream. After solving the riddles correctly, we are granted a sealed verse and the exit from the death dream. With NieR, Weiss, and the mayor coming back to the real world, we take a moment to break the curse on the rest of the villagers before we depart. When NieR returns to his village, Popola notifies us on plans to rebuild the canal, but the person that was supposed to be on duty is slacking a bit, so we head to the seafront to see what is going on. Turns out the man's wife is missing and we are tasked with finding her, and when we think she's dead, she pops up back later on. Two argue before the man on canal duty says things are okay now and that he can get back to work on the canal. After turning in the news to Popola, she tells us that Yona is looking for us, and so we head back to the house to hear that Yona has a pen pal that is in need of help and asks us to go help him. NieR can't refuse a request by his sister, so he heads to the manor from the south gate exit she spoke of. We vanquish a big shade before arriving at the manor that Yona spoke of. NieR, Weiss, and KEIICHI are greeted by a man outside who leads them inside the mansion. NieR decides to explore the mansion while KEIICHI stays behind, eventually disappearing mysteriously. It is then implied that the house could be haunted, but Weiss dismisses it almost instantly. After more exploring in Key Collection, we find a room where we hear music, and as NieR and Weiss enter, they find a young blind boy named Emil, who is Yona's supposed pen pal, but doesn't know anything about the letters. Nonetheless, Emil tags along with us, even handing us the master key and a map of the mansion. As the three head back, they run into Emil's butler, who reveals that he was the one writing letters to Yona because Emil had been so lonely and isolated, and that it is his job to help Emil the most that he can. It is then that we are asked to head farther into the mansion and find the documents relating to research on petrification. When we eventually find the room we are looking for, a tome appears to be guarding the room, seeking to eliminate NieR and Emil for entering the space. NieR remarks how the tome looks like Weiss, but he brushes it off. The trio go against the tome, with KEIICHI joining the fight partway through. The book is defeated, explodes, and the pages it contains scattered, revealing one of the pages to be the document we were searching for, alongside our final sealed verse. The group heads back, and before exchanging farewells, KEIICHI gives Emil a courageous talk before her. Weiss and NieR head off. Sometime later, we return to the village and find that Yona's health has taken a slight turn for the worse. NieR goes to Popola asking if there's any more medicine, when she tells NieR that they need more vapor moss to produce more, and that they grow near the southern gate. When we do evidently retrieve the vapor moss, we find that Emil has walked to the village and passed out at the gate. We bring him to Popola's office, where Emil tells us of a premonition that the shades will be attacking the village in numerous numbers. Not long, however, that premonition becomes a reality, as a giant shade accompanied by many smaller shades attack the village by breaking the southern gate. NieR helps to evacuate the people from the area before engaging with it in combat. The Titan proves to be a formidable adversary, as it's not going down and starts to head towards the library where the evacuated are staying. KEIICHI joins the fight as we follow it, trying to prevent it from killing everyone inside, including Yona and Emil. The beast does go down, however. Shades have made their way into the library, but Emil is protecting everyone with his petrification abilities. With the four banded together, they attempt to kill off the horde until the same Titan Shade from before comes back for one last round, albeit in a small but still aggressive form. The Shade is resilient, so we try to lock it inside of the basement in the library. The four manage to get the beast in, and KEIICHI is holding it back, demanding the key to lock the door. As NieR is about to hand over the key, he's impaled from behind by an unknown assailant. The unknown being, resembling a humanoid, flies through the building before coming back with Yona in hand. This being is referred by Weiss to be the leader of the Shades. Weiss is confronted by Grimoire Noir, who was alongside the unknown being, and states that they have a higher purpose, and that they must unite into one to see it. Weiss doesn't buy it though, as he has people in his life he considers to be close to him. He breaks free from Noir's hypnotism, claiming that he has companions now. Another fight breaks out, only this time, Noir has taken away all of NieR and Weiss's magic. With sword in hand, NieR perseveres with sheer swordsmanship, and when the fight seems that it is drawing to a close, Noir unleashes an attack so devastating it pierces NieR right through his stomach. Weak and losing blood, we are powerless as the leader of the Shades flies off with Yona in hand. KEIICHI tells Emil that the fight is over and they lost, before they can do anything else. There's one loose end that needs to be tied, as KEIICHI has been keeping the Shade locked in the basement this whole time. She states that Emil must petrify her and the beast to keep it contained. Emil hesitates before acknowledging that this is the only way. NieR watches as he is living the worst day of his life, before vowing to come back and save both KEIICHI and Yona. 5 years later, and we see an older and more honed NieR as he subjugates Shades attacking a woman and her husband. NieR has been working on his combat prowess and weapon mastery, as he now uses spears and great swords alongside regular straight swords. The Shades have also been advancing these 5 years, as now they even have armor being incorporated into their defense. Weiss notes that our village is taking a turn for the worse. NieR has been searching for Yona all this time after the Shadow Lord took her away 5 years ago, but all he has found was headache and despair. NieR's purpose for living now is to hunt and kill all manner of Shades, and hoping of finding a clue to lead him to the Shadow Lord. We are called by Popola, and when we arrive, we are presented by a letter from Emil, who states that he may have found a way to undo KEIICHI's petrification. At the manor, Emil tells of a section of the manor called the Planning Room, which would give Emil the ability to harness all forms of magic, and in turn cure KEIICHI's petrification, and maybe cure his own affliction. The entrance is in the courtyard located under the stairs, accessed by what could be a lever mechanism or key of some sort. A warning is attached to the door, and Emil experiences a headache but brushes it off. We then head inside. As NieR and Emil venture deep inside, they collect numerous key cards, each unlocking a new section or floor to access in this planning room. Each floor we go to containing a document alluding to experimentation. Weiss concludes that this was a magical research facility at one point in the past. Emil experiences another headache after he notes a connection between himself and the facility, as if trying to recall an old memory. Emil claims they have to keep going though, as the three head down another floor to find another document at the end of the door. This document alludes that Emil was part of human experimentation and put into stasis in the year 2026, the same year that the game starts at the market. NieR concludes that this was also a lab researching into weaponry. Hearing this, Emil has another migraine. Clearly something is wrong here. On the next floor, we are ambushed but quickly dispose of the threats, revealing another document explaining that out of the 7 people to be experimented on, 2 passed with one person named Halua to proceed to the next stage of experimentation, and for Emil to be kept in storage as a failsafe. A failsafe for what exactly? And notice how this is happening in the year 2025, 1 year before Emil was put into stasis. For almost a year, Halua was subjected to cruel human experimentation on the study of magic weaponry. Emil stumbles before coming to the revelation that he is a weapon born from human experimentation on magical weaponry. This thought terrifies Emil, but NieR is there to reassure that no matter what his past, that he and Weiss are there for him. The final keycard is obtained, which leads us to a large room after crossing a large bridge. This must be homing the state secret described in the document. We are surprised at the sight of an unknown creature impaled into the wall. It's by seeing this creature that triggers Emil to remember everything, that he and the other 6 children used to be human, but were brought to the mansion where scientists used magic to perform experiments on them. They did eventually succeed in creating the perfect weapon, although devoid of human form, number 6. When number 6 couldn't be controlled, however, they needed a weapon to stop number 6. This is who would be number 7, Emil. Emil accepts this truth, but NieR reminds him once again that weapon or no weapon, you're still Emil to us. Number 6 is revealed to be Emil's sister, and that she is still alive after all this time, and that her power could cure the petrification. Number 6 breaks free and swallows Emil, and it's our job to get him out. Precise battle ensues, as aiming for the stomach is not an option, as we can't afford to hurt Emil in the process with regular weaponry, so we must use magic. Battle reaches its boiling point, but we come out on top as NieR impales number 6 through the head. Emil has a vision of his sister, and he gains the ability to harness all forms of magic, but it comes with a price. Because he merged with number 6, Emil had lost his human form. Now skeleton, Emil is saddened and cries, but NieR stays to his word that Emil will always be the same, and gives him a hug. Emil can see now, and after a brief moment, he accepts his fate. With him, NieR, and Weiss heading to undo the petrification cast on KEIICHI all those years ago. The spell is lifted, but alongside is the shade that was sealed all those years ago. Thirsty for revenge, NieR kills the shade, showing how much she has changed from that fateful day. KEIICHI awakens, instantly recognizes Emil, and accepting him for who has he become. Before reunited, happiness washed over them like the rain, until Devola and Popolo ruined it all. After everything is settled, the villagers had become terrified of KEIICHI and Emil, despite the village being saved by NieR and his companions. Devola and Popola have no choice but to run KEIICHI and Emil for the sake of the village by telling them that they cannot stay. This clearly angers NieR, as this is uncalled for from his perspective, but from the perspective of Devola and Popola, they have to do what's right for the village. Emil and KEIICHI don't mind though, especially KEIICHI as she never went inside any of the villages. NieR realizes that KEIICHI had always slept outside while he had the luxury of sleeping in the village on a bed. He damns himself for failing to realize sooner. Weiss tells NieR not to let it trouble him and to turn in. These series of events cause NieR to cast doubt and hatred towards Popola and Devola. NieR doesn't get much sleep that night as there's too much on his mind to ponder. Next morning, NieR apologizes to Devola and Popola, with the latter telling that the lost shrine, where we first found Grimoire Weiss, is connected to the Shadow Lord's castle. Now given a clue after all these years of searching, NieR's motivation burns bright to find where the Shadow Lord's castle resides and to save Yona. But first, we must investigate the lost shrine and see what the connection actually is. The canal is also repaired, enabling us the ability to travel by boat. Coming to the temple, we arrive from the backside and must navigate and climb our way up before even entering the shrine. Once we're in, it's another fight through 5 floors facing armored enemies. This time, the shades have prepared for our arrival. This is not enough to stop NieR, and when we reach the apex of the shrine, we find that the Guardian from the beginning of the game had survived and recognizes us. We engage in battle with the Guardian and KEIICHI is collaterally impaled by a broken spear. No time to think, we slay the machine and tend to KEIICHI, who in her unconscious state, her shade side takes control, and it is our job to bring KEIICHI back. We manage to free KEIICHI, and when she's given up, Emil reminds her that she is his reason for living. The four share a moment before a strange object appears before them. It is a mysterious stone piece, but with no clue. Weiss suggests that we take it back to Popola, where she concludes it to be a cipher of some sort. She is only able to decipher bits of it, and is actually shown to be one fragment part of a larger key, the other 4 keys being Sacrifice, the Law of Robotics, Memory Tree, and Loyal Cerberus. Taking the stone guardian piece we found at the Lost Shrine, we conclude that the fragments correspond with places we visited throughout our journey. The ones that immediately stand out to us are the Law and Robotics and the Memory Tree, as these would most likely allude to the Junk Heap and the Forest of Myth respectively. NieR realizes that killing the bigger shades present a clearer path to find out more about the missing fragments and the Shadow Lord. With new and steady progress being made, we head out for the Junk Heap. In the 5 years that have passed, Jacob had died while saving Gideon from an avalanche of metallic junk from falling on him due to a robot causing it to fall. This grief causes a burning rage to swell within Gideon, followed by a hatred for robots. He's lost an arm at some point after Jacob's death, either from trying to get materials or trying to get revenge on his own. We meet up with the brother to ask about any unusual shades, but Gideon is only focused on robots and could care less for shades. Before NieR and Weiss take their leave, Gideon gives us a great sword and says that if we can gather the material, he can and repair and upgrade it. We acquire the material from within the heap, and once we bring it back to Gideon, he does exactly as he said he would, but also asks for a personal request from us: to slay the robot that took Jacob's life. He notes that there was a shade as well accompanying the robot, and that piques NieR's interest. It's also told that the robot lies within the deepest depths of the heap. Not a thought is wasted as we head into the heap to see what we can uncover about the shade and Law of Robotics fragment while also avenging Jacob. An army of robots standing in our way, all destroyed, room after room, floor after floor, until we enter a room with a giant hole in its center with the exit unknown. This must be the entrance of the robot and shade that Gideon was talking about. Stealing our resolve, we jump right in and land on a platform, greeted by a giant robot with a shade riding upon its head. The battle is fierce, with the robot even generating wings to grant itself flight during the fight. This is no problem to NieR and his companions, as the robot is vanquished, and following it, the shade that was riding on top of it, Gideon reveals himself to take the satisfaction that the robot is dead, and that his brother's murder has been avenged. We return to the shop as we acquire the Law of Robotics fragment, and Gideon falls into madness. Weiss states that sometimes this is the only way that some people can handle grief. Heading to the Forest of Myth now, NieR and Weiss ask the mayor if anything strange is amiss. The mayor says the divine tree has a strange presence towards it, but didn't investigate it because their people are not allowed to go near the tree. The two approach the tree and come to realize that the tree speaks, and that is it indeed alive. The tree had a purpose too, which was to record all the events of history. We are presented with 3 riddles to be solved once again before we can actually speak with the tree. NieR and Weiss get all 3 riddles correct and are granted an audience with the tree, in a space containing memories of sort. As we come forward, a shade emerges from the floor and starts manipulating and consuming the said memories, described as jewels in a child's mouth, playing with them. We slay the shade, with Weiss commenting on how the shade is capable of intelligence and rational thought. other times proven impossible. NieR doesn't care though and brushes aside the comment as they collect the memory tree fragment. Back at the village library, NieR asks Popola if there's been any news about the Shadow Lord's castle, and we are notified of a letter coming from the area stating that they have opened their borders after numerous years, and that one of the villagers may have a clue to the whereabouts of the sacrifice key fragment. Weiss and Popola deem it unnatural and dangerous, but NieR doesn't care and heads for the area. On the way, KEIICHI even mentions that the whole ordeal she has doubts about. We are stopped by a large shade right before the bridge is crossed, but is subjugated as we enter the area. Arriving at the village, the villagers are in despair as one even notes that the shades attacked them the night prior. We make it to the chief's house and ask about the letter, and he says he doesn't know anything about a letter. This raises more concerns. Exploring the village, we come across a small market, where NieR asks the guard about the letter, and once we tell about our shade hunting, it is revealed that the man is a shade, and that some of the villagers have been possessed. This is a trap, and now NieR with his companions must fight their way through the village while discerning who is a shade possessed and who is not. This reaches a point where KEIICHI has a lady at sword point and her little brother pleading to stop. KEIICHI slays the lady who turns out to be a shade alongside the boy. They look at us as we're the villains while we are trying to save the village. A massive black swirl appears in the area as hordes of armored shades appear, each killed one after another. I want to note that during the fight, you hear one of the villagers say, "I don't even know who's human anymore." Just then, from the black swirl, emerges a sort of figure first, resembling a black lotus, before unwrapping in a creepy eye, revealing itself to be the combined power of the shades we've been fighting. It takes the combined efforts of both NieR and Emil, as the creature is able to shield itself in short incremental periods. The Emil keeping the creature at bay with his magic, NieR circles around the massive shade, aiming to take it down from the flank. The creature notices, however, and repositions itself before the final bout taking place near the entrance of the village. The shade, trying to protect itself from our onslaught of attacks, that is, until Emil pours more of his magic in, losing control of himself, with Weiss mentioning that the magic weapon has been released. The screen fades to white as we are brought before sight. The area has been destroyed. Emil comes to his senses and is devastated by the tragedy. NieR notes, however, that if Emil hadn't done what he did, then they would have all been dead, and to not look back after this. Thanking him, the fragment of sacrifice is acquired as NieR and his companions leave the ruined city. In NieR's village, Popola informs us that the ferryman has been skipping out on work and asks us to check up on him in the seafront. This has NieR and Weiss go back and forth from the village and the seafront, asking different people about the missing ferryman. This leads us back at the post office, where come to find out, even the postman is not there, and that it is a normal villager running the office. The resident shares that the people of the village have run off, and it may pay us to visit a large shipwreck that crashed upon the shore. KEIICHI says that she senses something from within the ship, and it causes her to feel at unease. Emil offers her to take her and search for clues outside, while NieR and Weiss explore the ship. They all agree. NieR and Weiss take off and explore the ship. While searching for clues, they see a figure resembling a little girl going inside a room, but once we enter the room, the girl is gone. NieR calls it a ghost and Weiss dismisses it. As they go farther into the ship, they find out that this was actually a slave ship, used for selling and torturing humans. This is an act of evil noted by Weiss, and NieR can't comprehend how someone could be capable of such things. Not long after, NieR falls through the floor, revealing the dead body of the ferryman. Weiss tells us to avert our eyes as we take a moment of grief before meeting back with KEIICHI and Emil to our surprise. NieR enters the final room and is greeted by a lone child on this ship full of corpses. Weiss states that something is clearly wrong, and KEIICHI confirms that the little girl is the presence she felt. The missing postman enters the room and says that he's been taking care of the little girl, who shows herself to be a shade as the man approaches her. This in turn has NieR and his companions engaging in an enduring fight. From the ship to the shore, we think that we have defeated the creature, only to reveal its true form as a colossal shade reminiscent of a sea creature. Ordinary attacks will not work on this beast, as it seems like it can recover from almost any attack. As the battle reaches its end and it's looking like NieR and friends will be annihilated, the postman, with his courage, attacks the beast. the same little girl he once took care of. This causes the shade to attack to stop, almost as if reflecting upon itself. This gives NieR the moment he needs to make a fatal blow against the Colossus. The creature disintegrates into the water as we watch from the shore. 1 week later, and everyone is still recovering from the attack, we share the news of the ferryman's death with his wife as she falls to the floor, tears running down her face as we fade to black. NieR returns to the village to find a letter from the king of Facade stating that he is getting married and inviting us. As per their rules, we cannot refuse. NieR and his companions head for the desert to celebrate with the king. As we reach the kingdom entrance, we are attacked by wolves but vanquish them easily. Weiss even mentions that it is strange for wolves to be in the desert. As we meet with the king, we find out that his bride-to-be is Fira, the same girl we met all those years ago when we first arrived in the kingdom. This makes the group happy to hear and see how she's come along all this time. We are invited to stay the night and share a talk with both KEIICHI and Emil before meeting with the king. He laments that he's having a celebration even though the kingdom hasn't been prosperous as of late, due to the wolves. NieR tells the king that they all deserve to relax once in a while after everything they've had to persevere through. The next day, the king is married to Fira. Kingdom celebrates but is interrupted when a soldier comes back wounded, claiming that the wolves are coming. Before a second thought, Fira is pierced through the wolf's fangs, revealing the pack leader to be a shade as well. NieR wounds the beast before it takes off. The king, tending to Fira, cannot do anything but break down Fira in his arms. We are watching a king fall into despair at the price of losing his bride to be the Facade's enemies. King, fueled by rage, vows vengeance against the wolves and takes arms. NieR and his companions will not let him go alone, however, as they too hate the wolves. The king's soldiers try to stop him, claiming that he is acting like a fool, but before long, more soldiers come to the aid of the king, all according to the rules of the kingdom. It is in that moment that the king regains his senses, and his resolve is steeled as we head for the wolf's den. Clash ensues against the wolves, with one wolf falling after another, with both NieR and king both having a clear desire to vanquish their foes. The pack leader makes his descent, but is defeated by the combined efforts of NieR and the king, with the king delivering the final blow, avenging Fira and hopefully bringing peace back to his kingdom. The last fragment, Loyal Cerberus, is collected, and now we can head for the Shadow Lord's castle. We leave the king as he wants to grieve in solitude. NieR heads back to see if Popola has any final words for him. The whole village is anticipating NieR to bring Yona back. Popola and Nivola tell NieR to be careful as the two head for the Shadow Lord's castle, accessed through the Lost Shrine. From the back entrance, once more must we climb the numerous floors to reach the same room that we found Grimoire Weiss in. When NieR and companions enter the room, they combine all the fragmented pieces to unlock the barrier, granting entrance to an elevator which takes them to the Shadow Lord's castle. When NieR, Weiss, KEIICHI, and Emil approach the first set of doors, they are met with a bird, asking a set of 3 questions that must be answered correctly before we are permitted to enter. First question asks, why did the humans disappear from this world? This doesn't make sense to NieR, but it does to Weiss. Weiss answers that the humans disappeared due to a black disease. The answer is correct. The next question asks, how can humans extend their lives? Which Weiss answers by separating body and soul. The last question asks, what is the destination of said souls? The answer being, in their corresponding shells. We are acknowledged as master and permitted entry into the castle. From there, it is an uphill battle. The first door opens, revealing Popola and Nivola waiting for us. NieR asks what are they doing here, and the two try to convince NieR to go back to the village. NieR isn't convinced, and a fight breaks out between NieR and his companions versus Popola and Nivola, with the latter saying that they didn't want to fight, but it is inevitable, as it seems the fight is reaching its end. NieR asks if they're on the Shadow Lord's side, and in turn, the two answer that NieR must seek the truth for himself, before granting him full access to the castle and taking off. The second room we enter has us ambushed by shades posing as ballroom dancers. They die at our hands before the leader of these shades appears and transforms into a form resembling a warhog. The beast seems invincible as it is able to regenerate itself. KEIICHI manages to get the door open, leading to a spiral staircase that must be climbed. Beast shade catches up though as it chases NieR and Weiss up the stairs, leading to another room where another fight against the beast begins. Soon to be out of energy from countlessly engaging with the beast, NieR and companions are on their last legs before the King of Facade and his soldiers appear to take over the fight. NieR objects but is thrown out by the masked people, knowing that their death is certain. He tries to force them to open the door, but their resolve of the Facade is strong, and they have all made peace with the fact that this could be their last time they walk this planet. NieR is saddened, but Kaine reminds him that the king is fighting for his friends and for Fira. This gives NieR the motivation he needs to continue forward. Down a narrow hall, we enter another large room and are met with Devola and Popola once again. NieR asks why are they doing this, and it's revealed that 1300 years ago, humanity was on the brink of extinction and took a last-ditch effort plan called Project Gestalt. It's revealed that Popola and Devola are not human. Popola then reveals that everyone is not a real human, but shells created by the true humans, and that the real humans are actually shades, twisted remnants of what was once human. Before a question can be asked by NieR, Devola states that the rightful owner has been waiting a long time for the body that is NieR. Paying attention, you can figure that this ties in with the 3 questions that were asked to us by the bird in the water at the entrance to the castle. Popola says that they're only performing their duties. Vola comments that their purpose has been to control the lives of others in accordance to the true humans. Devola apologizes before one last fight breaks between the 2 groups. Throughout the fight, Devola tells NieR that there are only tools to be used at the hands of the real humans, whereas NieR disagrees that they are nothing alike. The battle reaches its apex with Devola being slayed, and for a brief moment is taken, where Popola has one last heartfelt talk with her dying twin sister. NieR tells Popola that they can stop, but a grieving Popola, furious, tells NieR that he does not have the luxury to stop after cutting her twin sister down like an animal. Popola is on the offensive now. Weiss states that Devola and Popola have been around for a long time, watching the world become what it is, and that such a fate is cruel. NieR doesn't want to fight her either, but Kaine tells him that this is the only way. Popola unleashes one last powerful magic, hoping to take everyone around her out. NieR and his companions try to leave, but Popola has them in her grasp. Emil states that it's going to be okay. It lets us know that when he was a child, when we first met him, he hated his eyes. And now after his transformation, he hates his body, but it's these 2 things that gave him the ability to become friends with Kaine, NieR, and Weiss. Emil detaches himself from the protective field he conjured before sacrificing himself to allow his friends to escape. Emil has a few final thoughts where he shares that he is actually scared to die. The combined magic of Popola and Emil cave in on each other, resulting in the space around them being disintegrated, leaving only Emil's staff behind. After the fight, NieR is in utter despair and even lets out tears before Kaine assaults him, realizing that she too is also taking her sadness and frustrations out on NieR before telling him that it's time to go. The 2 fight off shades down a corridor separated by 2 sets of doors before eventually coming before a door to the Shadow Lord's room. As NieR and Kaine enter, they spot Yona on the bed, and as NieR dashes towards her, the Shadow Lord appears and has this fight against Grimoire Noir. The book is easily defeated, and the final fight against the Shadow Lord begins. After an enduring battle, Yona wakes up and calls for her brother. NieR thinks that she was referring to him, but when NieR runs to her, she walks past by him and to the Shadow Lord. This is the real Yona. The Yona that we saw at the beginning of the game, that had her soul separated from her body, and the Yona that we know throughout the game is the corresponding shell that was mentioned earlier. Replicants are the shells created by humans, but these replicants would come to be sentient on their own. With this information, we now know that the Shadow Lord is actually the original NieR before Project Gestalt. Yona claims that the replicant Yona has been inside her, and that the 2 essentially share a body. The replicant communes from within that she wants to see her brother after all these years, and the real Yona tells original NieR that she doesn't want this body. She heads to the window, apologizing to original NieR before setting her soul free. By doing this, the replicant Yona can have control over the body again. This saddens the Shadow Lord and sends him into a focused frenzy at his replicant counterpart. NieR states that he understands what's going on, but is not going to sympathize with the Shadow Lord, as anyone who hurts his sister and friends must be cut down. No one is wrong in this situation. This is 2 sides fighting for very just causes, but appear to be villains to the opposite side. To the Shadow Lord, the replicants were merely spare bodies that were supposed to house the original human souls. That's why you see shades attacking the replicants. On NieR's side, however, they see themselves as their own person because they gained that sentience. and their lives are their own, and they are not spare bodies. They see the shade attacks as attacks on their kind. This is truly a story about tragedy with two sides on the same coin, each desperately fighting for what they each believe in to be just causes. Weiss says that he has one last job to do, giving NieR the chance he needs to strike at the Shadow Lord before leaving. NieR takes his chance, stating that he has a reason to defend and a reason to live, before fatally striking the Shadow Lord. We reunite with Weiss to find that he has lost his physical form, and tells us that with his last moments that we need to call out to Yona and prove to her that the two of you have lives full of meaning. After a series of questions answered correctly, Yona awakens to find that her body is changed and questions if this is her body. NieR tells her that this is her body and only her body now. As the two are reunited, Kaine walks off, and NieR tells her that she's more than welcome to stay, but she refuses, stating that she has unfinished business to take care of. The two take a moment to look outside the window, and we pan to the original NieR, who seems to have found peace with the original Yona in the afterlife. This is a story of NieR Replicant for the 15th anniversary of the NieR series. I may do another one of these in the future depending on how this does. Thank you for watching though. This has been Grief.